everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while for sure. I think it's been about a month and a half since I last posted a video, and I apologize for that. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to, be proactive and put things into perspective. And unfortunately, between trying to replan vacations, which I had originally planned to go to Asia, coronavirus spread over there like wildfire. I then planned Plan B, which was Europe. That also hit the fan, and then ultimately I ended up going somewhere else, which was nice. It was great. It was a nice time off. But work, life, it comes at you, and sometimes you just have to prioritize things. This coronavirus thing has taken on a lot of different situations, and it's definitely turned people a little crazy. So the only thing I can say about that is be mindful, be cautious of those around you, especially the elderly and those that have illnesses. Wash your hands, be clean, wash yourself, don't overshop, and please, for the love of God, stop buying toilet paper in bulk. This disease is a form of pneumonia. It affects up here, your breathing, your lungs, that. And it can affect other parts of the body, don't get me wrong, depending on how healthy or not healthy you are, but I digress. It does not have anything...
50 miles
Shut up.
per hour.
Sorry. It does not have to do with your butthole. Stop buying toilet paper in bulk. Anyway, updates on the car. It's obviously still here. I'm driving it right now. I have to run a couple errands. But if you guys might remember from last time, I last made a video which was right before the car went over to the shop for a thorough look through. Because I've been facing two issues which have been pretty big and fairly consistent. And that's outside of the fact that the car is just not performing the way it should be. But the car went out there for 3 business weeks. They looked it over. They said they did compression tests. They checked everything through. They put it back on a dyno. It made a little extra horsepower. I think it made like 8 to 10 more wheel horsepower, which I feel is attributed more to the weather. When the car was finished initially back in mid to late October, the temperatures were still up above 85, close to 90 degrees, and the humidity was still through the roof. Whereas when they retuned it, or rather put it back on a dyno, the temperatures were a much more acceptable of wintertime weather for Florida anyway, of around 70, low 70s, I'd say, mid 70s. But anyway, what's going on now? So, the car is still not where it should be. The timing at the track is still not where it should be. The power is still not where it should be. It still feels horrible when you're running. And I'm still having those two issues that I see while I'm driving around the city. If I'm on the highway, just cruising, 65, 70, 75, the car is great. If anything, the mileage is kind of weird that I gained mileage, and I'm actually in the 30s driving on the highway for whatever reason. But I digress. Outside of that, if I have to stop for traffic or a stop sign or a red light or anything of the sort, I'm having issues. If I go to the track, I'm having issues. If I'm having to race, I'm having issues. So that's where we're at right now. I have taken the car personally back to the shop a couple of times myself, which has been annoying and bothersome because it's easily a 4-hour, if not more, drive, depending on traffic and weather conditions. But it's been back a couple of times on my own time, and the last time the car went down to the shop, it was actually trailered down there, which I appreciated very much. The owner of the shop actually paid for the car to be trailered down there. And again, like I said earlier, they checked everything, said everything was good, called it a day. Unfortunately, that's not the reality. So, the past couple of days, I decided to go on Facebook, onto a Facebook group, which is about 20,000 people, which for the most part are people that know, Hemis. Some of them are tuners, shop owners, builders, etc. And I decided to share my two issues in detail and see if I could get some advice on what could be going on. Now, I had already consulted this with a couple of people outside of that group, whether it be people who have had Hemi builds of this nature or even bigger builds, as well as shops that I've worked with before for just email tunes and things that are much more simpler than this. And obviously there are people that know what they're talking about. And yeah, they've all said that it's the tune. I got distracted, sorry, some guy was literally sleeping at the light. So they said there was a tune. I went on this Facebook group, asked the question, and everybody, I got about a dozen responses, said the same thing. Tune. It's got to be in the tune. If the car sounds right, if the car has no issues that you can tell of, no check engine lights, nothing that you can hear mechanically, then it's the tune. It's all in the tune. Unfortunately, the shop owner who did the work on this car was not one to like the fact that I guess I went outside of that bubble of his shop to get advice, and let's just say his response was less than stellar. And when I say that, I mean it was rather bothersome, because it's not like I'm making up the issues. It's not like the performance issues that I'm seeing and the drivability and the city issues are something that, I'm just bored and I want to waste your time. These are actual issues that I'm facing. And it's not like I paid you, $100. You know what I mean? If it was a couple $100, whatever. It is what it is. Screw it. This is thousands of dollars. I mean, a lot of money. Let's just put it that way. And it's not money that people necessarily on a day-to-day basis can just do away with. You know what I mean? But I saved up. I decided to put, my little outside of my own personal savings for a rainy day. I saved up. I had money on the side, which I purposely had set for this. I always wanted to go cam on a car, and I figured this was the best platform to do it. So, unfortunately, his response to that whole scenario was, and to clarify, I didn't talk ill of him, I didn't talk ill of his shop, and to this day, I'll still say this much: him and his team have always been very friendly, very amicable, very approachable. Communication was a little bit of a hit or miss depending on a variety of different situations, but I understand that people get busy, people have lives, people have a job to do, so that wasn't a huge deal. But up until then, everything was great, and it seems like he just did not like that I posted that, and he didn't like the responses I was getting. And long story short, apparently we are all effing retards, because they know the most about Hemis, and the tuner he works with knows the most about Hemis, and we know nothing. So there's that. I don't take it personal. To me, online bickering is stupid. It's childish. It's unbecoming of a person. So I did not allow myself to lower my standards to the point where I would sit there and insult and talk nonsense and bicker back and forth. My response was very forthcoming but respectable, and he never responded back. Again, he took it personal. It didn't need to be. It is what it is. Now, he apparently works with someone named Brent. I've heard of Brent before. I've seen his name come across Hemi forums, and to make it understandable, this is not my first Hemi. This is not my first 5.7. This is not my first charger. This is my 5th charger in 12 years? About 12 years. So my 5th charger in 12 years, all 5.7s. Dude, like, seriously. But anyway, I have heard of Brent. I have heard good things. I don't know if the issue is stemming from Brent, or stemming from the shop itself. Maybe there's some sort of miscommunication there as far as what the issues I'm facing is concerned, and that's why they haven't been able to find the solution. I don't know. I'm not there, so I can't speak or vouch for any of this stuff. But all I know is the realities of what I experience, and that's the car wants to die out when I stop too quickly, or even just mildly too quickly. I have to literally grandma and grandpa it to a stop at a stop sign or traffic or whatever. And God forbid I get stuck in stop and go traffic, because the car will literally want to die on me at almost every turn. Like, the RPMs plunge to like 300 RPMs, and then the car starts to lunge and surge, and all in an attempt to keep itself awake, or alive rather, or running. And the second issue was, what was the other issue? Jeez. I don't even remember. There's another issue that was a little bit more minimal and not a big deal. And obviously there's a performance aspect of it. The car is supposed to be making X amount of power, and it should, keyword should, be running an X amount of range in the quarter mile. That's not reality. The car has actually slowed down significantly from it was just full bolt-ons, which might sound like a lot, but it was just exhaust, intake, and tune. So for the car to go, let's see, 0.7 tenths of a second all the way up to 1.2 seconds slower than what it did before, I think anybody would be aggravated, bothered by that, because nobody wants to spend thousands of dollars to make their car go slower. Now, don't get me wrong, the cam lobe sound, while not consistent, which again is another red flag to me, and I don't understand what that's about, because the cam lobe is on, and then all of a sudden the idle seems to like control itself and go back to stock, and then out of nowhere it goes back to loping, and that's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I don't know why. It just makes me wonder again if it's all just in the tune. But while the cam is great and it sounds great and it's nice to have, and oh wow, it's a cammed car, it sounds great, looks great, whatever, nobody's gonna spend that much amount of money to make their car sound a certain way. At least nobody with common sense. Exhibit A, I have some degree of common sense. Some people might tell you otherwise, but I digress. I have common sense sometimes. So it's just frustrating, and I have been
55 miles per hour.
I'm not even speeding that bad. I'm only doing 5 over, babe. Relax, baby. All right, but it's just frustrating, and I've been very patient because the car was finished in October, and we are now in mid to late March, pretty much the end of March. Apparently the end of times, but whatever. That's who you ask. And we're still having the same issues. The car's not performing. The car's not where it should be. The car's having these nonsensical idling, stopping issues, whatever the heck you want to call it. And after 11 revisions of a tune and numerous data logs, both at the track, highway driving, daily driving, city driving, stop and go, blah, 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 we have gotten nowhere at all. So let me stop ranting. I just wanted to update you guys on what's going on with the car. Luckily, while we did get a not so great response from the builder on that Facebook post, I did get a response from a lot of tuners who have all offered to help. One in specifically happened to reach out to me while I was at the track on Saturday, and he looked over a couple logs. He wasn't able to look over the tune itself because it was locked, and apparently that is the norm in this type of stuff. So it is what it is. But he did help. We got the car down about 0.7 tenths of a second from where we started the day off, and that was because we found out that the transmission tune, which as far as the old shop is concerned said was supposed to be shifting around 6300, was kind of a hit or miss. It seems like only third gear while in drive was actually doing that 6300 RPM shift. But it was like hit or miss. Every run, when I would look at the logs, the RPM shift was just kind of all wonky and all over the place, and generally around the stock red line. So I ended up figuring out that if I put it in manual mode and I automatically shift it, I can get it up to that 6300 RPM range. And there seems to be power there because we dropped, again, 7 tenths of a second in a quarter mile from what we've been running recently. So it's all these inconsistencies and just lack of information and details that have really gotten me to the point where I am now, where it's just I'm frustrated, I'm done, and I need to find somebody else to tune both the car, the engine, as well as the transmission, because the transmission should not be having to go into manual mode to shift at the right point. So that's where we are. In the coming weeks, I am going to be working with this tuner. We're going to start completely from scratch on the tune for everything, and I'm unfortunately going to have to pay out of pocket for a lot of these things. I'm unfortunately going to have to pay out of pocket to go take it to another dyno so that they can work with this tuner and get the car where it should be. The shop owner who did the work has offered in a not so nice way. I mean, I'll say it was more of a through his teeth type of offering to send him the bill and he'll pay for it. So we'll see if that's a reality. But yeah, we'll see how that all goes. The car should be back at the track in about 2 weeks. I'm hoping to at least have a couple of new revisions on the all new tune, so we can see exactly where the car is, and we'll kind of go from there. I also have another toy in the stable, which me and my buddy have in my garage. We actually bought it a couple months ago, and it's been lots of fun, but I've just been neglecting to put it on a video, but I'm going to do that on the next one. And you guys can expect updates in the coming days, coming weeks, on everything that's going on with the car. But that's pretty much it. If you guys want any information on what's done to the car, what parts I'm using, anything else that I can possibly have an answer for or could get you an answer for, feel free to ask. That's what the comments are for. I'm always happy to help. Again, I'm not the most knowledgeable person when it comes to the Hemis and things like cars of this nature, but I know like a decent amount of stuff. Like I can defend myself. I've been there, I've done that. I've modded these cars for years now. I've talked to tuners and shops for years now about all the possibilities, and I'd say I'm an intermediate as far as knowledge is concerned for these cars. But again, I'm happy to help, and yeah, that's pretty much it for today, guys. Again, keep an eye on the channel for the upcoming videos and the updates, and let's give it a little send.
The speed limit is 55 miles per hour.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, babe. I didn't mean to speed. Especially not in a construction area. Sorry about that, guys. But you can't help it sometimes. Anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next video.